This is something that I always like to bring up. And it's something that I know will help you. If we can approach meetings with this frame, we're going to get a lot more from these meetings. Instead of will this work for me, let's think more of how will this work for me? Because guys, here's the deal. If this stuff works for me, why can't it work for you too? Here we go. I've got a few different numbers here on the board, but this is in my life production over the last 6 years. So 2018, 2019, you'll notice that I did not start out just selling life insurance like I do now. I wrote 10 life apps, maybe my first 2 years selling. And then you'll notice in 2020, things really started to change for me, right? I wrote 123. In 2021, I did 231. 2022, 251. And then this year, over 200 as well. Along with these life apps, guys, I'm writing about 100 plus health every year as well. The next thing that I want to talk about is what is it that changed? Because if you're like me, I'm looking at those numbers and I'm like, Coulter, what the heck did you do, man? Like, what did you change in 2020? There are two things that I started to implement in what I did. The first thing is I started to talk about what the policies and coverages do, not what they are. So with life insurance, let's talk about what it does, not so much what it is. We can get to what it is after we've talked about what it does. Because guys, let me know in the chat, what do our customers buy off of? Are they buying the features of life insurance or are they buying the benefits? So I started to talk more about what it does. Now, early on for me, guys, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I was getting life insurance objections very prematurely into my pivoting. And so that is one thing that I would encourage each of you to do right now. Think about life insurance objections. Let me know, what are the most common life insurance objections you guys are hearing from your customers? We're going to hear a lot of the same ones. I've got it through work. I don't need it. I've already got a policy. But I think more importantly, what we need to get good at is really understanding where are these objections coming up with our customers. I like to break the sales conversation into three main parts. First part is the pivot. Second part is the presentation. And third part is the close. So the pivot, this is when we're going to go from talking about auto, we're going to bring up life insurance. We're transitioning, we're pivoting. The presentation, this is where we're going to build value. This is where we're going to help our customers understand the risk that they face by not having coverage. Help them know the solution that we can help them with and the benefits. Like, this is what's in it for you, Trevor. This is why it would be important for you to get. That's where the selling happens, is in our presentation. Now, the third piece is the close. This is when we're getting the price into the customer's court. When you think about these objections that you guys just gave me, at what point of the sales conversation are these coming up for the most part? Is it early on in your pivot? When you bring up life insurance? Is it when you're building value and explaining the problem, solution, benefits in your presentation? Or is it when you get them a quote? Let me know in the chat, guys. Where are these objections coming up? Okay, so Trevor, you're saying the end. Are you talking about like you write the home and auto and then you're bringing up life insurance and that's where those come up?
Exactly.
Okay.
Like, hey, we first auto, we've done this. I'm like, oh, hey, by the way, do you know that we do life insurance? Or have you heard about life insurance? Have you thought about life insurance? And that's when they're like, nope, and then they just hang up.
Yeah, good stuff. Rachel says most of the time at quote. So when we get them the price. For me, guys, early on, and I'm sure a lot of you will relate to this, and I think, Trevor, this is kind of what I meant as well. It seemed like my first 2 years, every time my customers would hear life insurance, they would immediately go to one of the objections. I've got it through work, Coulter, I'm good. Oh, I don't need it. So I'd encourage you to do that self-diagnosis and really define where are these objections surfacing? Because then we can be very intentional with our training and know what we can do, what adjustments we can make so we can get further into the conversation. For Coulter early on, my first 2 years when I was writing 10 life apps, it wasn't a question of, is he having enough conversations? Because guys, I was. I came from the door-to-door industry, doing door-to-door sales. I did that for 2 years. And so I would talk to everybody I possibly could about life insurance. My activity level was super high, but it wasn't translating into policies. It was frustrating. The objections that I was getting were coming up as soon as my customers heard the words life insurance. I'd say, hey, Ricardo, tell me about your life insurance. Or Ricardo would say, oh, Coulter, I've got it through work, I'm good. And then I would work to overcome that objection. But what I realized is Ricardo put up this wall between him and I. And no matter what Coulter's saying, Hey, Ricardo, it's like a company car. The moment you leave the job or the job leaves you, you can't take the car. Just like you more likely can't take this benefit. So let's look at getting something outside of work. I could get really good at overcoming that objection, but guess what Ricardo would do 9 times out of 10 after I got done with overcoming that objection? But Ricardo, because this wall was up between him and I, it would get to the end and he'd be like, oh, Coulter, thanks, man, but I think I'm good. That was the story for me over and over again. That I got to a point, guys, the middle of my second year that I said, screw it. I'm not going to talk about life insurance anymore because clearly nobody wants it, because clearly I don't know how to sell it, because clearly they only want the home and auto, you name it. All that negative self-talk was in my mind. And mind you, I knew how to sell. I knew how to overcome objections. But for whatever reason, I couldn't figure out life insurance. So I was frustrated. But that was the pivot that I was doing. Say, hey, Viri, tell me about your life insurance. Hey, Sarah, what coverage do you have in place for your life insurance? Life insurance, life insurance, life insurance. And it was the same story. I get those premature objections where the conversation stops at the pivot. And what's the issue with that, guys? Well, I can't get to a conversation with Trevor about educating him the risks that he faces by not having life insurance for his family. I couldn't get to let him know that, hey, I've got a solution that can help that. Nor could I get to the benefits and help Trevor understand why it would be important to get this. I couldn't get to that sales presentation because my customer is stuck on life insurance and I've got it through work. The year 2020, when I wrote 123 life apps, a few things changed. Number one, my agent enrolled me in a Team Member Hall of Fame. I love speaking to Team Member Hall of Fame groups. I love that friendly competition. And I hope that you guys do too. Buy into it. Let it get you to do more than you've done in the past. That's what happened with me. I said, I'm going to be number one going into my third year. I'm going to be number one in life insurance, knowing I don't even know how to sell it. I don't have any proof that I know how to do this, but I'm going to figure it out. So I went into my third year with a renowned commitment. I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to be number one. And so I was more intentional this time around going into my third year. I was intentional with my training. What I just went through with you guys of where are these objections surfacing for you, pivot, presentation, or close, that's what I really defined for myself. And I realized that for me, it was early on in my pivot. Every time my customers would hear life insurance, they would give me one of those objections. And that's where this wall came down and they weren't listening to what I was saying because in their mind, I imagine that there's like a box in their mind with life insurance next to it. It seems to be that people will check that box off as long as they have something in place. Whether it's $10,000 through work or $1 million, whatever the coverage amount is, because they have something, that's why they were giving me those things. And so going into my third year, Team Member Hall of Fame, and the second thing that I did, I started to talk about what it does, not what it is, especially in my pivot. So I went from saying, hey, Ricardo, tell me about your life insurance. And I just started to leave the words life insurance out, at least initially. Because I didn't want Ricardo to jump to a conclusion in his mind, put up the wall, and that's where it ended. I wanted to give myself a shot at educating Ricardo on the risk solution benefits of life insurance. I wanted to talk to him about what it does, not have him get stuck on what it is. So I started to do that. For example, instead of saying, hey, Ricardo, tell me about your life insurance, I started to say, hey, Ricardo, tell me about the coverage you have in place to replace your income if you were to pass away prematurely. Hey, Viri, where you've got a loan on your car, I'm going to quote you a loan payoff protection, and you can tell me what you think. I left the words life insurance out. Guess what started to happen? My customers, Ricardo and Viri, they're like, yeah, I don't know if I have anything in place. We started to talk about what it does, not so much about what it is. Customers have beliefs that whether or not they're true, they have them about life insurance. And so this is how I was able to position myself and get into better conversations. Talk about what it does, not so much about what it is. And the second piece, I want to ask you guys, let me know in the chat, when your customers think Trevor McBride State Farm, or they think about your office or our company, what policies do they know us for? Auto and home, look at that, there we go. In your guys' experience, do they know us for, hey, Viri can help me with life insurance? Or Trevor McBride State Farm, they do a lot of life insurance. Not for me, I don't know about you guys. What about short-term disability income? Medicare supplement? Or supplemental health? No way. They know us for the home and auto. I don't know how many times I would pivot to life insurance and a customer would say, I didn't even know you guys did that. Yes, we do. And so our customers know us for the home and auto. And so what do? Let's keep it complementary to the home and auto. I threw this together. I've shared this with my group a handful of times, but I think it illustrates a good point. But let's just say, Ricardo, you are a Taco Bell fanatic and you love the Crunchwrap Supreme with some nacho cheese in there, and you can't forget the sauce. And so let's say that, Ricardo, you have a rock solid week. It's Friday, like you crushed the week. And you're like, I'm going to treat myself. You're like, I'm getting Taco Bell. And so Ricardo gets in his car after work, had a solid week. He's going to go treat himself. He pulls up to the Taco Bell drive-thru, orders his Crunchwrap Supreme. And let's just imagine for a minute, this goofy bugger here in the bottom, this Taco Bell guy, he's like, hey, you order your Crunchwrap Supreme. He's like, hey, would you like to add a side of steamed broccoli with that? Ricardo, what are you going to do? What are you going to say? That's the answers I'm getting. Like, put some nacho cheese on that baby. Like, let's make it tasty. And so Ricardo's like, I'm not going to do it. But let's just imagine then for a minute, Ricardo, that this guy, he's like, instead of the broccoli, he's like, hey, Ricardo, would you like to add a soft taco for $1? Now what are you going to say? Different story, right? Because it's complimentary. So I like to view myself, my position as a team member, as this Taco Bell guy. If he was to offer me steamed broccoli, just like Ricardo, it is so easy for me to decline. And for this Taco Bell guy, that's where it ends. But if he uses more strategy and he finds something that's more complementary, it's a lot easier for our customers to say yes. And so let's keep the life insurance. Let's keep the health insurance complementary. Our customers know us for the home and auto. They don't know us for the life insurance. They don't know us for the disability, the supplemental health, Medicare supplements. They know us for the home and auto. So that's what's on their mind when they're calling you. So let's keep it complementary to that. Now, the simplest way to do that, guys, is to pay off loans and mortgages with life insurance and make monthly payments with disability insurance, car payments, mortgage payments, rent payments, insurance payments, you name it. Keep it complementary and see what happens. But guys, talking about what it does, not what it is, and keeping it complementary to the home and auto, those two simple principles absolutely change the game for me, and I know they can change the game for you too. Now, as we get to the end, I'm going to teach you a process that I've developed to write life and disability to our customers that have loans on their vehicles. To me, as a team member, you're like thinking about, okay, how many opportunities could I create for myself with customers that have loans on vehicles? I mean, how many opportunities do we come across every day with people that have a loan on a car? Quite a bit. And so this play, like I said, I'm very, very confident it can change your production if you let it. So let's get into it, guys. I want to give you this tool while we're finishing up 2023 and we're getting into Fast Start. So this agency life system, guys, this is exactly what has allowed me to write over 200 life insurance applications every single year, consistently for the last 4 years. These different plays are what we cover in our group, the team member perspective. And we get into the details, and you're going to see that today as we get into the added cars. Or really, we'll make it even more broad. Anytime someone has a customer or anytime someone has a loan on a vehicle, we can run this play. So before we get into it, let's talk about the psychology and why it works. So when people get loans on their vehicles, think back. I don't know if you guys have financed a vehicle, but I'm sure a lot of you have. But I want you to think back to when you purchased your last vehicle, the one that you got a loan on. And think about, what were you thinking? What were you feeling when you purchased the vehicle, but also when you finance it? So for me, guys, I just purchased a truck like 2.5, 3 months ago. Okay, so it's kind of fresh for me. My wife convinced me one Saturday, let's go look at trucks for you. Knowing that it's going to be a whole half of my day ordeal. We're going to be in the dealership for 4 hours if we do it. But anyways, I was like, all right, let's do this thing. So we go to the dealership, and there were 3 trucks that I was looking at, just different models. Looking at Ford F-150s, I was looking at the Lariat, Platinum, and the Tremor. I liked the Lariat. Okay, so me and my wife, we're test driving these. Okay, we get in the Lariat. My wife's in the passenger seat. I'm behind the wheel, and we get to the Lariat, and she is just selling me. She's like, honey, this is the one for you. Like, you look great in this thing. It's got everything you want. You deserve it. Of course, I'm behind the wheel. I'm like, yeah, you're right. This is the one. I feel good in this thing. So we're getting excited. I can see myself driving this thing. That we get to a point where we're like, let's buy this thing. As long as the numbers make sense, we're going to have a new truck today. So we go from test driving the truck. We go to the finance guy's office. We sit down. Here comes the paperwork. He says, hey, Coulter, with what you're putting down, here's your loan amount, right? This is the amount that you're going to finance. And here's your monthly payment. I went from feeling super excited about this new truck. Now I'm feeling stressed. I'm looking at that loan amount and I'm like, what am I doing? Is this a good idea? Is this smart? Probably not. We're going to do it anyway, right? I look at that monthly payment. I'm like, my goodness, we haven't done that before. That's going to stretch us. Deep breath. As long as I continue to sell more life insurance, I think we might be okay. So we make the decision, we buy the truck. But guys, what was I thinking and feeling when we were test driving it? I was excited about this new truck. What about when we were going to do the paperwork to finance it? I was stressed. Looking at that debt, looking at that monthly payment, I was worried. I don't know if you guys can relate with that, but I'm sure that you can. Guess what? Our customers think and feel the exact same way. So the play that I'm about to teach you, the reason why it works so well is because all we're doing, guys, is we are entering the conversation already happening in our customers' minds. They're excited about their new vehicle, yeah, but guess what? They're also worried about this debt, taking on more debt, and they're worried about making this monthly payment. And so that is why it works so well. Let me get back to this presentation. We'll get into this. So that's why it works so well. Let's talk about the workflow. Specifically with added cars, guys. The trigger here is a call comes into the agency to add a car with a loan. That's a trigger. As an agency, you guys need to decide this. You need to get very clear and define this in your agencies. Who is going to run this play in the agency? I'm sure we've got some service team members on this call, maybe. I don't know. Probably the majority of us are sales, and some of us might be solely sales, and some of us might also be kind of like a hybrid sales and service. So if your service person is the first one on the phones and they're not going to do the selling, then here's the thing. How are we going to get this opportunity over to our salesperson in an effective way? I want you to think through that workflow because it's important, guys. This stuff works so well as long as you work it. It's not uncommon. If you read this review, this is a team member. I did the same type of presentation. I taught this play to her. The very first call I took, the day after, landed me an auto, renters, short-term disability, and a life policy. All that came from the one-word track he dropped at the orientation call. I'm going to drop that for you guys. This process works incredibly well. We just have got to work it. Now, before we get into it, I want to ask you guys, okay? I always like to do this. We're all in some sort of sales position, right? If we're in the Team Member Hall of Fame, we are in a sales position. So we're selling. Now, how many of you just absolutely love to feel like a salesperson? How many of you like that sales pressure? Sean, I commend you, my man. I love that. Hey, what about the rest of us? Do you guys like that sales pressure? I got a lot of heads shaking. No, I don't either. It's funny because I'm writing 200 plus a year. It's easy to assume, oh, he's just a really good salesman. He's a sleazy guy. He's shady. No, I do not ever like to feel like a salesperson. I like to feel like an advisor. Exactly. I don't like to feel like a salesperson, an educator. So number one, we just identified something here. We don't like to feel like salespeople, but we're in a sales position. Well, guess what? Our customers don't like to be sold either. I would argue that they like to buy. How many of us like to buy here? I'm a big buyer, but I don't want to be sold to. For example, let's just say that Sarah's in the market for a new pair of jeans. And Sarah, I'm not saying that you love buckle with this, but for this example, you do. So same type of thing. It comes Friday and Sarah's like, you know what? I had a great week. I'm going to reward myself with a new pair of jeans. She's been putting it off and it's like, finally, we're going to get some jeans. So she gets in her car, she drives to the mall. In her mind, I'm getting jeans today. So she walks into the mall. She's happy. It's the weekend. I'm getting myself a new pair of jeans. The moment that Sarah crosses into Buckle, that retail person is on her. They say, hey, how's it going? How can I help you today? Sarah, knowing she's going there for a new pair of jeans, tells this retail rep, oh, I'm just looking. Sarah, have you done that before? So why do you tell that retail person that you're just looking when you very well know that you're going to buy a new pair of jeans? Why are you doing that? You probably don't want to be bugged. You don't want to be sold, but you like to buy. But you don't want to be sold. So guys, we've identified two things today. Number one, everybody but Sean, which Sean's the freaking man, I commend him, doesn't really love that sales pressure. We don't like to feel like we're salespeople. And number two, our customers don't want to be sold to. They do like to buy. So here's the question I'm going to pose. Knowing that we don't like to feel like that, neither do our customers, how do we position ourselves as the advisor, as the educator, and remove that sales pressure from the conversation? I want you to think about that as we go throughout this play. Here's the car loan process. We can sell life and disability to our customers and prospects with loans. Lots of opportunity here. The lowest hanging fruit, guys, is going to be the people that call in to add their vehicles initially.